His father, 49-year-old carpenter Randy Wooten. Diane says during a confrontation in a video store parking lot, Rusty and Randy vandalized her car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 463 on the calendar in the matter of Welch versus Wooten. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Well, my reading of the complaint and the answer in this case indicates to me that this was a monumental example of bad judgment on a lot of people's parts. Ms. Welch, you want the defendant and his son, co-defendant, to pay for damage to a car that was being driven by your son. Seems to me this was a retaliatory act, according to you,
yes,
or something that was done by the defendant's either one son or two. The defendant was there in a parking lot. They all got together to rumble. What's going on? Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Who was there?
My son and his friend.
Son and friend, step up here. Miss Welch, why don't you sit down, please? Who's the son?
Me.
Your name is Chad?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are?
Josh Laughlin.
You're Josh. So we have Chad on one side, Josh on the other. You don't mind if I call you Josh, do you?
No, ma'am.
All right. What is your name, sir?
Rusty.
Rusty. And this is your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Your name?
Justin.
Justin, you were there too?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. But so were you, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Chad, how this started?
Well, they called me and told me to...
Who called you?
It was Larry and Justin. And Larry...
Larry?
Yes, ma'am.
Not here. Larry and Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
Justin, raise your hand. Step up. Move over a little bit. That's it. So Justin called you.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did Justin say when he called you?
He asked if we would come to the video store so we could talk and get the problem straight.
Now, what kind of problem had you had with Justin?
They said I broke into their house.
When did they accuse you of breaking into their house?
About a month before this happened.
Did you try to break into their house?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever try to break into anybody's house?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
Neither one of those statements are true, ma'am.
You mean that he didn't try to break into your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't interrupt.
Yes, ma'am.
It's really not important. All right, so he called you because he said that you tried to break into his house a month before.
Yes, ma'am.
And he wanted to get the matter straight at the parking lot of a video store.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. And so what did you say?
I went to the store because it was the middle of the day in the middle of town, and I didn't expect nothing bad to happen there.
Well, what time of the day was it?
About 12:30 or 1.
Did you go alone?
No, I had...
No, you went with Josh.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else?
Zach.
So you went with Zach, too, who also isn't here,
Yes, ma'am.
along with Larry, who isn't here. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, were Josh and Zach at your house when you got the call?
No, we was on the way to Zach's house.
Who was on the way to Zach's?
Me, Josh, and Zach. And they called...
When you got the call, were you there alone?
Oh, ma'am.
You were there with Josh.
And Zach was with me.
So all three of you were at your house when you got the call?
No, we was going
No,
down the road.
I want you to pay attention. You received the telephone call at your house. Who was at your house with you at the time you received the telephone call?
I wasn't at my house.
Where were you?
I got the phone call when I was going down the road. They called the cell phone.
Oh. Who has a cell phone?
Zach.
So he didn't call your number, he called Zach's number.
Yes, ma'am.
How'd you have Zach's number?
No, I've had repeated calls from him before, and it was on my caller ID, so I knew where I could reach Chad at.
Was he a friend of yours?
No,
But you knew that the boys were going to be together,
always.
the three of them,
I don't know. I didn't know Josh was going to be. I know Chad's always with him.
with Zach,
Somebody.
with somebody. All right. So Chad, Josh, and Zach. You reached him on the cell phone, said you're going to meet him at the video store. So you pile in your car, you're in your car already, and you take off to the video store.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your intention, sir, when you called him?
To get at the bottom of him breaking into the house.
What do you think we pay police for?
They wasn't going to do nothing about it.
So what were you going to do about it?
See if he really did it.
And how did you intend to do that?
Get him to tell the truth.
And how did you intend to get him to tell the truth?
I asked him.
You were just going to ask him. You were going to say, did you try to break into my house? And you thought he was going to answer you. Is that what you thought?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you kidding me or what?
Telling the truth.
Telling the truth. All right. And how many of you went to the video store?
Me and Larry.
But you didn't go just with Larry.
No, my father and Rusty, they followed us because they heard the phone call.
Who heard the phone call?
When we called them, my dad picked up the phone and he heard what Zach and them said they were going to do to me, and that's why they followed me out there.
Well, what did they say they were going to do to you?
And I was grounded at the time. He said when I left my house that I was going to get shot, and that's why Dad followed me out there.
So let me understand this. You called him to arrange for a meeting to ask him a question. Why did you try to break into my house? In response to that, he told you that he was going to kill you.
Zach did.
Zach did. Well, I don't care who did. Zach did, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you decided to go anyway.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And not only did you decide to go anyway, but your father and Rusty decided to go in a second car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why, Mr. Wooten?
I wanted to make sure that the boy was not carrying a gun, that he was going to shoot my son.
And how did you intend to find out if he wasn't carrying a gun?
I asked him, which I did.
You were going to ask him.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a gun and do you intend to shoot my son?
Well, no, I asked him if he was toting a gun.
You said, well, are you toting a gun?
Yes, ma'am.
And so after he confessed to the attempted burglary, he was going to confess to carrying a gun. Is that what you thought?
Well, he pulled up his shirt and showed us he wasn't
He showed us
carrying
he
a gun.
wasn't toting a gun.
In his shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
Did any of you ever see Bruce Willis? Carries him in his shoe. And
He had on shorts. It was during the summer.
So now we've got two cars going from your team. The adult, mature father and one son, and you with your friend Larry, and you with your two buddies.
Yes, ma'am.
And why don't you tell me what happened when you got to the parking lot at the video store?
When I got there, it was just Justin and Larry. They walked out of the video store.
Justin and Larry.
Walked out of the video store. Yes, ma'am. And then Randy and Rusty jumped out of the car and followed behind them, and they started in on Zach, asking him about a gun, telling him to raise his shirt up and all this. And he raised his shirt up, and then they asked him how old he was, because they knew he was too young, and he said how old he was, and they called him a liar, and then he told him he was 21, and Randy slapped him in the face. And after when he did that, they was all coming.
Just a second. Randy, did you slap him in the face?
No, ma'am, I hit him.
You hit him?
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Chad Parker and his friend Josh Lawson say they agreed to a brawl with 17-year-old Justin Wooten and his brother Rusty. The boy's father, Randy Wooten, claims he accompanied his sons to make sure the fight was fair.
Okay. Why did you hit him, sir?
He had an attitude, you know, when he pulled his shirt up. He said, no, I'm not toting a piece. And I know the boy was older than what he was saying he was.
So you hit him?
I hit him.
In the face?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
After he did that, they started coming towards me. All of them was coming towards me. So I got a bat out of my car and ran to the store and told them they needed to call the police or something bad was going to happen, and they refused to call the police. And when I was in the store, Rusty kicked the mirror off my car and kicked the side of my car. Then he picked Josh up and was choking. I don't know what he was doing to him. He had him in the air and wouldn't let him down.
Who had you in the air?
Rusty Wooten.
Rusty. Glad you confessed. This is a wonderful lineup. Why did you have him in the air?
Well, the way everybody was positioned, my dad was in front of Josh and he was walking towards you, and I thought he was going to do something from behind. So I grabbed him from behind, and Justin told me that Josh didn't have nothing to do with the break-in. He was just with the wrong people. So I let him go, and I said, I'm sorry. I apologized, shook his hand, and that was that. I did punch his mirror, but it was because of my only excuse is anger. Is either punch the mirror or punch a minor and possibly go to jail for assault to a minor. So I chose the mirror. And I'm ready to pay that. I have an estimate on what a factory mirror would cost for his car.
All right. So far, is everything that I've heard pretty much accurate the way it happened?
No, ma'am.
Well, he said yes, and he says yes. You say no.
No.
What was different?
The phone call, Chad said to meet them at the video store.
Yeah.
Justin and Larry was inside. Rusty and I was parked at the front door. They walked up, started in the video store. Chad saw me sitting in the car. He turned and ran to his car. And that is when he got the ball bat and was swinging at me and running across the parking lot at the same time, and he was swinging.
Was that before or after you slapped his friend?
That was before.
That was before you slapped his friend?
Yes, ma'am.
So he's running around like a lunatic with a baseball
Yes,
bat,
ma'am.
and you go over to his friend, ask if he's got a gun. You didn't like his attitude, and you slapped, and you, hit him.
Yes, ma'am.
After the mirror was broken, what happened?
After the mirror was broke, I went to leave. And when I went to leave, Randy was stood in front of the car, and finally they left and got in his car, and Justin and Larry stayed, went back in the video store. When I was leaving, I hit Justin's car with a bat.
You hit Justin's car with the bat. Were you in
Ma'am.
your car when you did that?
Oh, ma'am, I got out.
Because you were angry.
Yes, ma'am. And they already did it to mine and hit them, which I know I shouldn't have did it, but I did.
And then what happened?
We left, and Justin, I don't guess he did, but Larry got in the car with somebody else and followed us. And he hit the side of my car with a tire tool and then threw it at the back, and it stabbed in the back of the car.
With a...
Tire tool with
What
a
is that?
sharp end on the one side, and then it's got the lug wrench on the other side.
It's not one of my usual pieces of equipment that I carry in my purse. But I assume it made a hole in your car.
Yes, ma'am, in the back and in the right quarter panel.
Was that your mother's car?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, where was your mother when all this was going on?
At home.
Did you tell your mom that you were going over to the video store?
No, ma'am, when I got the call, I wasn't at home. They had stayed the night with me the night before, and then we left that
Who stayed the night
morning.
with you?
Josh and Zach.
Oh, okay. Now, what I want to know is, at what point, Justin, did you ask Chad whether he had attempted to burglarize your house?
I told him on the phone. I didn't
No. You were meeting at the video store because you wanted to ask him why he attempted to break into your home. And you told me a few moments ago that that was the sole purpose of your going there. And that you also told me that you expected him to answer you. So I've just heard a whole bunch of things going on, but I haven't heard at what point you asked him, Chad, why did you attempt to burglarize my house?
Your Honor, there wasn't no doubt in my mind because my father called him.
So then what'd you go there for?
Truthfully?
Truthfully. Well, of course, don't you see how foolish I'm making you look?
No.
Well, I'm making you look foolish, sir, because I want you to tell me the truth.
To beat the crap out of Chad.
Right. Now we get there. Not just to ask him whether he attempted to burglarize your house. So you went there, not only you, but your father and your brother and your friend Larry all went there to beat him up.
No. Me and Larry went because we knew he had people with him. My dad
So
was just
you
there
went, and your dad went for what purpose?
to make sure there wasn't no guns there.
So he said it's okay if you go and beat him up as long as there are no guns.
Verify, yeah.
No, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay if you go beat him up as long as there are no guns. Is that the idea? Yeah, let's just go have a fair fight. How much do you weigh?
Me, 300 pounds.
How much do you weigh?
135.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
I mean, you know, if he's going to
No, is that fair?
I can't, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if you weigh 300 pounds, and he weighs 135 pounds, and his friend looks like he weighs 135 pounds after a good shower, does that sound fair to you?
He shouldn't
like
put
a fair
himself in
fight?
them situations.
What?
He shouldn't put himself in the situations with me.
That's what police are for. Quite frankly, Mr. Wooten,
Yes, ma'am.
these two people are idiots. Those two people are idiots. You give them the benefit of the doubt because they're young idiots.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not a young idiot.
No,
My
ma'am.
question is, are you an old idiot? How would you permit your sons to become involved in a situation where you know there is going to be violence? Not only do you know, you anticipate there's going to be violence, but your son's intention is to be violent. How do you permit your sons to do that? And follow them to make sure that it's just a fair fight. How do you do that?
How do I do it?
Yeah.
This between Justin and Chad has been going on for years.
So?
It's always never Chad on Justin. You know, he'll never, you know, I don't have no problem with them fighting. Fair. But it's always Chad and 2 or 3. You're going to jump on one boy. And
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter, contractor.
I've always thought that it was the responsibility of parents to try to discourage the resolution of disputes by acts of violence. And I don't care what kind of violence it is. You say it's a fair fight. People get killed in a fair fight.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say he didn't have a gun. Let's say he had a knife or a screwdriver or a lug wrench. And instead of throwing the lug wrench and hitting the car, one of your team threw it, and it went through the windshield, and it hit somebody in the head, and they got killed. Well, we didn't mean for that to happen. All we meant was to go there and have a fair fight. Now, that doesn't excuse you two idiots.
No, ma'am.
How many times have you been arrested, sir?
Twice.
For what? Let's make sure we get it right.
Theft property.
What kind of property?
An amp.
An amp.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the second time
Failure to appear.
on that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. You on probation?
No, ma'am.
Were you tried?
Yes, ma'am. They just gave me I had to do my suspended sentence, and then they ended the sentence.
When was that?
About a month and a half or two ago.
And when did this take place?
About a month ago.
So you were still involved with your suspended sentence?
No, I did my suspended sentence
So
in
this
the
was
county.
a couple of weeks later?
Yes, ma'am.
The dates on these are wrong. Yeah, we got the actual police report from where he busted his taillight out at the video store.
All I want to know is about the same time as he was getting off a suspended sentence, he was involved with something else?
I don't know when his suspended sentence was,
I don't
but
know
I can
either.
tell you
I just
what.
want to know how dumb he is. All right. And what about you, sir? Let's get to you. Arrested? You. Ever been arrested?
No.
You? You?
No, ma'am.
Didn't think so. Figured he was. So you want them to pay for the damage to your mother's car?
Yes, ma'am.
Forget it! Forget it. He had no right to go there. Looking for trouble. It found him. They're not going to get paid for their car, for the baseball bat, for the dings on the car. Good. You have to keep better control of him. Now you can stand up. You got to keep better control of him. Only saving grace is that you weren't there in the car with him. You weren't there with him. This father, who doesn't see anything wrong with what his boys did, I think it was the ultimate act of betrayal as a parent to encourage his two children to engage in a brawl that could have ended up with somebody seriously hurt. And if you don't get it, Mr. Wooten, I'm really sorry for you. We live in a civilized society. We're supposed to anyway. Lots of bad things going on around us. You're not supposed to set a bad example for your children. You're supposed to set a perfect example for your children. And a perfect example isn't, I'll come with you to make sure there are no guns and you can just beat the crap out of them, which is exactly what he says he intended to do. And if you didn't want to be involved with it, you shouldn't have gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
18-year-old sales clerk Elizabeth Hall for loans, rent, eviction fees, and harassment.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 17 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
How old are you, Mr. Smith?
26, ma'am.
And you're 18?
Yes.
She was your girlfriend? She
Yes, ma'am.
became your girlfriend when she was 17. You're no longer involved. You claim she owes you the balance of a loan that she made for a car. You borrowed the money from your grandmother in order to give to her. You've since paid your grandmother back. She's paid back $400 of how much was the loan?
It was a total of $1,500.
And you paid back?
$400.
So how much do you owe?
$1,100.
Isn't that easy?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there any reason why you think you do not owe that money?
The reason is I spoke with his grandmother 3 weeks ago, and we still have an agreement that I'm going to pay her back. I have every intention on paying her back.
So you acknowledge that this is a loan?
Yes.
No, because that's not what you said in your answer. What else do you think she owes you for now that you're no longer a couple?
Okay, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Oh, listen, we're way past hello.
Okay, I understand. We moved in together. The relationship was really good. We moved in 410.
We're past hello.
Okay.
What else do you think she owes you for?
$1,000 in back rent, ma'am.
Now I'll ask you questions.
Okay.
How much is the rent on the apartment where the two of you were living?
It was a house. It was $1,100 a month.
And how old was she when you moved in with her?
She was 17.
So she can't make a contract with you to pay rent?
I have her on the lease as
I don't
an
care
extra
whether you
source
have
of
her
income.
on the lease as your mother, your grandmother, your favorite aunt, or anybody else. She cannot make a contract when she's 17.
Okay, I understood. I have her name written down on here when she was 17, saying she was an occupant in the house, that she was
an occupant.
Extra source of income to the house. The agreement.
That's all wonderful.
Okay.
She can't make a contract when she's 17. She cannot enter into a binding contract when she's 17 years old.
I have her signature on here and everything stating.
As an occupant.
As an occupant, yes.
Got it? She's an occupant. She was, in fact, an occupant.
Yeah, and then we were living together. She turned 18, and then after she turned 18, she up and left.
There you go. That's why you don't go into an agreement with a 17-year-old.
Right, exactly.
Now, how old was she when you took out this loan for a car?
She was 18.
Okay. You're safe.
Okay.
Okay. What else do you think she owes you money for?
I got charged to file the eviction. When she turned 18, it took her 2 months to get her stuff out of the house, and I had to get an eviction notice because she wouldn't get her stuff out.
What stuff did you want out of the house?
A whole bunch of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in the garage, refrigerator, dishwasher, VHS tapes, children's books.
Who has children?
They're her nieces. I occasionally watch them sometimes.
Occasionally, sometimes.
When we were together, yes.
What else?
And
I mean, you're here. You might as well get it all off your chest.
The harassment. She would drive by the house, all that stuff, and, you know, harass me with everything.
Did you go to the police?
I went and got a temporary protective order against her. Yes, I did.
Did you follow through and get a permanent one?
Just a 30-day one.
Why didn't you follow through?
Didn't feel the need to do it. I thought it was done and over with.
Is it done and over with?
Yes, it is.
Well, then why are you bothering me with it?
I apologize for that.
Good. She owes you $1,100 for the car loan. What else? Is that it? Is it all off your chest now?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Perfect. All right, you have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Get to it.
He ran me off the road with his car.
When?
On January 19th, and he got out of the car and punched my passenger window 3 times, and it ruined the window regulator. It doesn't roll up correctly.
Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, and the estimate for the window.
I don't want the estimate yet, just I want to read the police report. Mr. Smith, were you contacted by the police?
Yes, I was, Your Honor, but I never punched the window.
Were you contacted by the police?
Yes, I was.
And what happened?
They asked me to see my hands to see if I had broke the window, asked me if I punched the window. I said I tapped on the window to try and get...
Tapped on it?
Well, tapped on it to get her new boyfriend's attention, because he said anytime, anywhere, any place, so it was that time, that where, that place.
Pay attention.
I am.
How did it come to be that you were in a position to tap on the window?
She was driving through my neighborhood.
Very slowly.
Okay.
And I want you to understand something, Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't shimmy. Don't shake.
Okay.
Don't try to get over. Just tell the truth.
That's what I'm doing.
The truth will set you free.
Okay.
She was driving through your neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She was driving through the neighborhood. I was coming back from the grocery store. I seen her car leaving my neighborhood.
Okay, so she's leaving your neighborhood.
Yes, she had just got done driving in front of the house.
Fine. So you came up from behind her?
Yes, and stopped.
And then you pulled in front of her?
Yes.
And when you pulled in front of her, did you stop your car?
Yes, I did.
So her car had to stop?
Yes.
Now, we're together.
Okay.
And then I assume, Mr. Smith, you exited your car.
Yes, ma'am.
When you exited your car, where did you go?
I went to the passenger window.
Who was sitting in the passenger seat?
Her new boyfriend, Joseph.
Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
So you went over to Joseph?
Yes. I tapped on the window and I said, let's do this.
Tapped on the window?
Yeah, I said, get out, let's do this.
What did you want him to do?
Get out of the car. He told me.
Get out of the car and what?
And handle it like men.
You have to be more visual with me.
Get out
I'm
of
not
the...
a guy.
Oh, I understand. I got a phone call the day before that saying we could handle it like men anytime, anywhere is fighting. So he was driving through my neighborhood with her in the car. I got out of the car. I tapped on the window, said, get out, let's do this. It's the time, it's the place right now, let's do this. And he locked the door and they drove around.
He locked the door?
He locked the door and they left. And I proceeded to go home.
What are you mad at him for?
He said anytime, any place, anywhere.
What are you mad at him for?
Because he started contacting her when we were together, selling her drugs and stuff like that. I mean...
Well, just a second. First of all, how do you know that?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
By cutting her off and by looking to have a fight with him, I think that there's a screw loose somewhere.
Okay.
So I think you're a lunatic.
And later today...
Is there a concert there? Is there...
There is a concert event that lasts for 3 days, and we camp with tents and everything. So it's a camping, there's no really...
Great. I always admire people who camp and get down to nature.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patrick Smith says ex-girlfriend Elizabeth Hall owes for loans, rent, eviction fees, and harassment. Elizabeth is countersuing, claiming Patrick ran her off the road.
Now, you think that he was contacting her while you were together?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why would that make you angry with him? He doesn't owe you anything. She does if you were living together, but why would you be angry at him? He's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants to do.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
He doesn't have any allegiance to you. She did. You might be angry with her, but why would you be angry at Joseph?
He made me angry. He told me on the phone if I wanted to handle it like men, handle it like men.
Well, I don't understand why you think Joseph would call you unless there had been some history.
No, I was talking to the phone. I was talking on the phone with her, and he was in the background.
What were you doing talking on the phone with her? She had moved out?
I was trying to get her stuff out of the house.
And what were you saying to her in order to get her stuff out of the house?
I was trying to let her know to pay Grandma back and to get her stuff out of the house that I was
So what were you saying to her?
I said, you know, you have 30 days to get your stuff. I filed an eviction notice.
Were you saying that to her nicely?
Yes, of course.
No.
Okay.
And then after you were talking on the phone nicely to her, he got on the phone and said to you, we can handle this like men anytime, anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And then you thought it would be a good idea to cut him off on the street and have fisticuffs there in the middle of the street.
Yeah, correct, yes.
You're an idiot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What do you do for a living?
I was a sheet metal pre-apprentice.
Well, that's in the past tense. What are you now?
Right now I'm unemployed. I'm currently looking for work.
Who do you live with?
Adam Allen.
What does he do?
He works for the water company.
So who supports you?
Unemployment.
Continue with regard to your counterclaim.
I'm countersuing for the $320 for my window.
Right.
And I'm
You got it. $320 for the window. What else?
And then the remaining money, the $1,680 for just harassment and punitive damages and just emotional stress, because I have to go.
You know how much stress I have every day.
I had to go to the courthouse 4 times now, 2 for restraining orders, 2 other times for the violations of the restraining orders.
What happened with the violations of the restraining orders?
She got denied. Sorry.
The first restraining order was granted for 30 days.
Well, that's a temporary one. He wasn't present when you were granted the temporary protective order. And then you went back.
And got an extension for 1 year.
Okay, so you got a 1-year protective order.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was present on that day?
Yes.
And then there was a violation?
Yes. The day out of court, when we were leaving the courthouse, I got down into the courtyard, and he came down the stairs and chased me through the courtyard, yelling my name, trying to talk to me.
Did you file a violation?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened with that?
We went to court, and he brought a lawyer with him, and his lawyer decided that I wouldn't get to speak on the other 2, and that violation didn't mean anything because I didn't have any witnesses.
His lawyer didn't decide that. No.
Your Honor, I would have never
chased her. That was a judge who decided that. You had to hire a lawyer? Did you hire a lawyer?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What do you mean, yeah, oh yeah? It requires either a yes or a no.
Well, because she accused me of breaking windows and stuff like that.
No, there's no question you broke her window. There's no question you broke her window when you cut him off. That you're going to pay for $320. That's coming off.
No, not that one. They said that I broke windows on their house.
I'm not asking anything about damage to the house.
That's why I brought a lawyer.
Is that the only time you brought a lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
When I made that violation, that had nothing to do with about the windows being broken on the house. I have no idea how he knows about that.
She wrote it down to me in the restraining order.
No, I did not.
I have a copy of it.
Just a second. Just a second. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
When were the windows in your house broken?
On the same night that the restraining order was granted. And the first violation that we went to court for was just for chasing me out of court. He might have the copy now of the windows being broken. That was the other 2 restraining orders. But the day he went to court with a lawyer, it had nothing to do with the windows.
Okay.
Right here. And that's the copy of the other one right there.
When did you retain the lawyer?
I want to say March 25th. I hired the lawyer, I think. I don't really remember when I hired the lawyer. I think it was around March, yes.
How many times have you had to hire a lawyer?
Just this once. This is the first time.
Well, then you should remember when you had to hire him. We're not talking about 2 years ago, sir. We're talking about within the last 60 days. When did you hire the lawyer?
March 25th.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
Her motion for a violation of the protective order wasn't filed until March 26th. You just told me that you hired a lawyer on March 25th.
I told you it was around that time.
No, you just said March 25th.
Yes, I stated it was March 25th.
This is on tape.
But it was around that time. I told you I didn't really remember the exact date because I don't remember exactly when I got served with that. It's the end of March, I know that.
Perfect. You've been harassing her, Mr. Smith?
No, ma'am, I have not. I don't want to have anything to do with her. I'm sick of it. She's harassing me. She keeps saying a bird on her car, and I'm getting in trouble for it.
No, we're not talking about that.
I'm just saying that's the way it's going.
We're talking about showing a bit of temper.
No, ma'am, I haven't even...
Is this the person who went to court with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. Over there. What's your last name?
Alan.
Did you go to court with him when he had a hearing?
Yes, but I didn't go inside.
Oh, you waited outside?
Yes.
Did you see him when he came out of the courthouse?
Yes.
Look, Mr. Allen, don't play with me.
Well, there was 2 courts he went to. I went to the second one, not the first
23rd
one.
23rd of March.
I didn't go to that one, Your Honor.
You're safe. Sit down. You owe $320 for the window you busted. You know, I owe another $500 because I think you're a lunatic. And by cutting her off and by looking to have a fight with him, I think that there's a screw loose somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm taking the $820 off the $1,100 she owes you, because she does owe you the $1,100 for the loan for the car, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, she was 18 when she was in the house, and she left 2 months, just left her stuff there and just up and left.
That's too bad. You owe him $180.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's all.
These are excused. You may step out.
Her true colors really came out right when she turned 18.
Because of him, I just couldn't put up with it anymore.
The beauty is,
He's very verbally abusive.
It's hiding the devil inside of her.
And he's not the guy for me.
She's gonna leave you high and dry, man.
It was time to go.
That's all she did, was just leave me high and dry.
I just hope he'll leave me alone and let me live my life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Canaan versus Combs. Step forward.
Christopher Canaan is suing 19-year-old Maya Combs for the cost of a camping ticket at the Coachella Music Festival.
Mr. Canaan, we really don't need a chart.
Okay.
It's not a very difficult case. Okay?
All right.
Pretty simple. Miss Combs, you purchased a campsite.
Canaan purchased it. I gave him $250 to split the ticket.
Who purchased the campsite on the internet?
I did, and I have a receipt here for the purchase price.
And you gave him $250?
Yes, ma'am.
And?
And he bought the ticket, and then he gave the ticket to me because I was going to be arriving at the campsite first.
Okay. So you bought the ticket.
That's correct.
Gave it to her.
Yes.
She was going to split it with you.
That's right.
Now I got it. You arrived later.
I did, so...
Your phone died.
Yes, ma'am.
As a result of which he couldn't get in touch with you.
But I did text him directions to the campsite.
He couldn't get in touch with you because your phone died.
Yes.
We understand that?
Yeah.
He bought the campsite, he sold half to her, but he gave her the ticket, which allowed her to get into the campsite. There's somebody there that looks at your ticket when you go in?
Yes, there's a line of
So
cars.
there is a person there that you have to show that you have authority to be in the campsite.
Yes.
Is there a concert there? Is there...
It's a concert event that lasts for 3 days, and we camp with tents and everything. So it's a camping, there's no really...
Great. I always admire people who camp and get down to nature. In any event, your phone died. He never got to the campsite.
That's
right?
correct.
And you want your money back.
That's something I'd like back.
What? Is that simple?
Yeah.
Now, did your phone die because you forgot to charge it?
No, because I left my charger at home. And
Oh, okay. So your phone died because of your negligence in leaving your charger at home.
I did text him directions to the campsite.
What if he couldn't get in?
He can get into the
Just
campsite.
a second. How do you know that he can get in?
It was free for anyone to go into the campsite, just not with their car.
And how is he supposed to get there?
He can walk in like most of the other people who are
Did you
getting
walk
the
in?
campsite.
Just a second. Did you walk in?
I was walking in and out of the campsite.
Did you walk in or did you take your car?
I took my car in. I took my car in.
Don't think. Don't think. Just tell the truth. If you tell the truth, it's very simple. You took your car in because you had a
car
ticket.
Other people who did not
Listen
have a
to
ticket.
me. You took your car in because you had a ticket.
Mark Golombieski is suing his ex-girlfriend, Pauline Bano, for the return of an engagement ring and 2 unpaid loans. Mark claims at the time he proposed, Pauline was married to another man.
Mr. Golombieski, you and the defendant were in a relationship. According to you, you gave her an engagement ring, asked her to marry you, and she accepted. And you made a series of loans to her. She went and married somebody else, according to you. And you remained friends, but you want your money back and you want your ring back. Ms. Bano says that you were just friends, originally not, but then she met somebody else, she married somebody else, and you, in a very friendly way, agreed to assist her when she was having some financial difficulties. And the ring was not an engagement ring, but a ring that was given to her at Christmas time when she received all of her other Christmas presents. That's the box? Can I see the ring?
100%.
Can I see the ring? I need a time frame for this.
That was Christmas Eve.
Oh, perfect. How did you meet her?
We met online in June of 2006.
And when did you meet in person?
A few days after we started talking online.
You live close by?
Yeah, we live in the same town.
Was she single at the time?
Yes.
Did you discuss marriage?
She brought up the subject of marriage maybe a couple of months after we'd met.
What did she say?
She kind of thought I was the right guy for her, and, you know, I got along well with her children and all that other stuff. And
So she's been married before?
Yes.
What about you?
Yes, I was.
Divorced?
Divorced.
And you?
Ben, I was divorced, yes.
Tell me about when you purchased this ring, sir.
When I purchased was after Miss Biano came back. She had to go to Maryland for about a month or so, 5 weeks or so, because her son was injured in Iraq. And she went down there to be with him and to care for him down in Maryland.
In what month was that?
Most of the month of October.
October 7th is when I left.
Okay. Go ahead.
We still contacted each other pretty much every day, emails, phone calls, things like that. You know, we kind of maintained the relationship the best we could. So I guess with absence making the heart grow fonder, things like that. When she came back in November and leading up to it, you know, I started thinking a little bit more about it, that we got through all of that and that, you know, maybe she was the next one for me.
But while, according to you and according to Miss Banner, while she was in Maryland, she met somebody else. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
And you married somebody else?
Yes, I did.
When did you tell Mr. Golombowski that you had married somebody else?
When I got home.
Not before?
No. When I got home from Maryland, which
When
was
did you
in
get
November.
home from Maryland?
November 7th, November 8th.
Is that when she told you she had gotten married?
No, Your Honor.
When did she tell you she
Mark,
got married?
you were crying
No,
on the
no, no,
phone.
Miss Spano, don't speak to him. When did she tell you she got married?
She told me she did not even get married until just before Thanksgiving, which would have been around November 22nd or so.
Okay, so
She
sometime
told me-
in
Yes,
November.
that's true. Sorry.
She didn't tell me this until about the beginning of the year after Christmas, that she got married back just prior to Thanksgiving.
She told you after you had given her the ring?
Yes, Your Honor. About a
Tell
week
me
or so
about when
after.
you gave her the ring.
Basically, it was on Christmas Eve, 2006. Her family
You
was
were
there.
together?
We were together. We were at her house. Her family was there. My daughter was there with us. And we'd opened up presents and things like that. And
Everybody exchanges gifts on Christmas Eve.
Go ahead.
one of the last gifts that I had given her was the ring. And, you know, I let her know that I wanted to marry her, and she accepted.
What did she say?
She said she wanted to be together, you know, and she accepted
All
it.
right. Now, according to you, Miss Banner, at the time that this gentleman gave you this ring, you were married to somebody else.
Yes.
And you told him you were married to somebody else.
Yes.
Give him his ring back.
Thank you.
His.
I offered it back 100 times. He
Now he's
refused
got it.
to take it.
Okay, now he's got it. Got your ring back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now let's talk about these loans. When was the first loan?
First loan was on January 17th of 2007. She asked for $750 for a car loan.
Now, by that time, you already knew that she was married.
Yes, Your Honor. But I also expected us to, she was talking about an annulment. She was talking
Why
about
did she
divorce.
tell you that she wanted an annulment?
She didn't want to be married to this gentleman. The gentleman that she'd married to wasn't even with her. He wasn't up in the state of Connecticut. He was still wherever. I'd never
In
met him.
Maryland.
The only time that I know that they were together, she said, is when he came up here to marry her in November.
But you still dated
Yes, Your Honor.
from November, December, and into January. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So according to you, and according to her, she needed $750. You gave her the $750, and according to Ms. Bano, she actually returned, and you accepted $350 on that loan.
No, Your Honor. Not on those loans. There was a time around Christmas that she wanted, you know, we were out shopping and she needed some money, and I gave her the $300 then.
What?
And she had repaid that money to me in the cash that she's talking about, I believe.
No, that is not true.
Okay, so why don't you tell me, Ms. Bano?
Okay, in the beginning, we did meet.
Listen, I'm past meeting. I don't care meeting. You met, you married somebody else.
Yeah, I
You
did.
want-
I met,
Fine.
I married somebody else. In
Listen,
December, I
Ray-
talked to him.
Quiet. Get to the $750.
I was telling him, we were talking. I told him I needed more money to put down payment on my new car, okay? He offered it.
Why did you tell him that?
We were just talking in general. I wanted the car now. I didn't want to wait, okay? And he offered it, so I said, okay, I'll pay you back. I can pay you back half now, and I'll pay you back half the next week. He's like, that's fine. So on the 18th, I deposited his check into my account. On the 22nd, I withdrew $300, and I handed it to him. He took it. The following week, I offered him money again. He said, no, just keep it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Go ahead, cutie. When was the next time you told him you needed money?
I didn't tell him I needed money. We're just having conversation. Okay, in conversation, the second time in conversation, we were discussing, and I was saying, we were talking about my income taxes, how I hadn't been here, blah, 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 so on and so on.
Just a second. Don't tell me about income tax. I read your answer.
Yeah?
According to your answer, you were having some financial difficulties. So what did you need money for in January?
A car.
You got the $750.
You just said what I need money for in January.
February.
March.
You mean you're still stringing him along in March?
Yeah.
What did you tell him you needed money for in March?
We were just talking about money in general. He offered the money. He left a check on my kitchen table. My daughter picked it up. We asked, what is this for? He said, help you out with bills. I was like, thank you. We cashed it. We paid some bills.
Oh, Lord. Let me tell you something. Mr. Golubieski, kiss the floor, look up to God, and say, thank you, God, because but for the grace of God, she could have married you. Been in real trouble, sir. Right now, the guy in Maryland has to worry about
He doesn't have to worry about anything.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
18-year-old John Banks Jr. says 16-year-old Diana Helzer stood him up for his prom. Diana and her mother, Lori, are countersuing for the cost of summer school classes and defamation of character.
You are suing Mrs. Hessler because her 16-year-old daughter, according to you, stood you up for the prom.
Yes.
For your senior prom, and you had a lot of expenses, and you believe that her mother is responsible for her standing you up.
No, not necessarily, Your Honor. I don't
Well,
feel
she's
that...
responsible because you can't sue her daughter, so you have to sue her mother. Ms. Helser says that her daughter did not stand you up, that you didn't should, but she has a substantial counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that since you believed you were stood up for the prom, you have embarked upon a course of conduct that amounts to harassment and defamation of her daughter's character, which forced her to leave school because she flunked all of her finals, and it became a catastrophe, and she has a counterclaim. When did you invite Dana to the prom?
About May 20th.
Did you do it in person?
No, ma'am. I was introduced to her through a friend of mine. It was her best friend, and I was on the internet, and she instant messaged me. She sent me a message, and...
Who did?
Diana.
Diana sent you a message?
Right.
Saying what?
Just starting a conversation, just, hi, my name is Diana, something to that effect.
So you didn't ask her to the prom?
I did. Eventually, I did.
In person or over the internet?
Over the internet and in person.
Is that right?
I don't remember him asking me in person to prom, no.
How do you believe he asked you to the prom?
Over the internet, we were discussing the fact that he needed to date, and he said, you know, do you want to go with me, basically?
And what did you say?
I said, okay.
You said, okay, so now you had a date. And you knew when you go to the same school?
Yes.
So you knew when the prom was?
Yes.
Okay. So you had you rented a tux?
No, I bought a tux.
Bought a tux. Figure stopped growing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Buy tickets?
Yes, Your Honor.
Rented a car?
No. I was gonna drive.
Okay. Tux, tickets. What else?
I also had dinner reservations. There was no fee for making the reservations, but there was for canceling reservations.
And what were all your expenses?
My expenses totaled to be, I believe, about $500 and some odd dollars.
Now, did you end up going to the prom, Mr. Banks?
No, ma'am.
Did not?
No.
Tell me what happened. What was the date of the prom?
Saturday, June 4th.
And just prior to June 4th, when had you last spoken with Diana?
June 3rd.
Where did you speak to her?
I spoke with her at school.
What did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
I informed her that I'd be getting everything ready. And
did she tell you what color her dress was?
Yes, it was pink.
Did she tell you what kind of flowers she liked?
No, ma'am.
Did you get the flowers?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of flowers did you get?
I got a bouquet of roses, and I got a corsage and a hand thing. I don't know.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9.
Did you tell her what time you'd pick her up?
Yes, Your Honor. I told her I'd be there to pick her up at 4.
So what happened, Mr. Banks?
Saturday, I had been running around picking things up, doing everything, getting everything ready. I hadn't spoken with her, but I had been speaking with her best friend, the one that set us up, and my best friend, because we were going to double date to prom. I had been with her friend's date all day, and I was on my way to pick her up, and I got a phone call from her friend saying that she had an allergy attack and she couldn't go to prom.
What time was that?
I'd have to say about 3:50.
Go ahead.
I was getting ready for prom at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Got dressed, went and got my nails done, and I made my hair appointment. I went and picked up my dress. When I was getting my nails done, I did have an allergy attack, and I went home and I tried to call John after talking to my mom. I called him, and his sister answered, saying that he would be out with friends all night. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stay home for a while. A friend of mine called and said, Diana, aren't you going to go to prom? And I said, no, I don't feel good. She says, would you like to come over, hang out, and we're not going to go do anything? And I said, okay. We ended up going over to another friend's house, just relaxing and watching movies the rest of the night, and we fell asleep.
Well, that's pretty outrageous, my dear Diana. That's pretty outrageous of you. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
You agree with I disagree.
Excuse me, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to your daughter, whose conduct was outrageous. Now, if you have an allergy attack and you are bedridden, that's one thing. But to go over to a friend's house, hang out and watch a movie is something entirely different. And I would be angry, too, if I got stood up at the last minute.
I had not yet given my permission for them to go.
I don't care.
Okay.
Whether you gave your permission or not. Did she use her own money to buy the dress?
Yes, she did.
And you didn't know about it?
I did know about it.
All right. And when you found out about it, did you say to her, I haven't given you permission?
Yes, ma'am.
When she went to get her hair and nails done, did you say to her, don't bother to have your hair and nails done because I haven't given you permission?
What I said was I haven't yet met Mr. Banks and I haven't given my permission. I need to meet him.
Miss Helsa, it's not an excuse. I'm saying that your daughter's conduct was reprehensible for a 16-year-old. She stood him up for his prom.
Okay.
And she stood him up not because she was sick, because she decided she didn't want to go. And she went to a friend's house and hung out with friends. And that is reprehensible.
Is that what you did?
No.
Is that what you did?
That is what I did.
You didn't know that?
Did you stand him up because you didn't want to go, or did you stand him up because you went and had an allergy attack and then went over to Julie's house?
It was because I had an allergy attack and my friend had wanted me to come over because she knew I wasn't feeling well and wanted to hang out.
Listen to me. If you have a debilitating allergy attack, you stay home. Go ahead.
That Saturday was prom, June 4th. June 5th, I broke my rib, June 5th playing basketball, and so June 6th, I stayed home, which was on Monday. I called her best friend on the phone. We talked about it because she felt bad as well because she set us up together. And I decided to call Mrs. Helser, and we spoke on the phone for a while. She was a really nice lady, and she also felt that what she did was inappropriate. And I know that she's not legally obligated to pay me back because, you know, it's an agreement to go to a social event and that's not a contract. However, her mother being of age and me being of age, she did make a verbal contract over the phone, and I have a witness here. Her best friend is here to testify because she was on the phone when I called her.
What did her mother say?
We spoke about what Diana really did on prom night.
Well, what did you say to her mother? Her mother's here. She's a party. You can tell me what you said to her mother.
I told her that I had an agreement to go to prom with her, and she informed me that she was aware of that Diana actually had an allergy attack, and I told her no, that Diana actually decided to spend the day with her boyfriend because I guess apparently she got a boyfriend that morning, and he asked her not to go.
She got a boyfriend that morning?
Yeah, Saturday morning she got a boyfriend, and she decided, and he asked her not to go. So, you know, and that's perfectly fine. But
Are you saying that somebody knows that? That you have a witness here?
That I was on the phone and that she told her that? Yes, I have a witness here.
I'd like to see the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
Kayla Brett.
Kayla, are you a friend of hers?
Not anymore, but I was.
Were you the girl who was supposed to double date with them?
Yes.
You had originally set them up? Did you have a conversation with Diana with regard to why she didn't go to the prom with him?
Yes, I did. I called her to make sure that she was ready to go because John was on his way, and she had informed me that she did not want to go.
Did she say why she didn't want to go?
She said she had an allergy attack, but as I continued to talk to her later on that day, before my date came to pick me up, she told me that, or I think it was June 5th, that she told me she had spent the night at her boyfriend's house.
What boyfriend?
His name is Jason.
So she said she spent the evening with Jason?
Yes.
Prom evening with Jason?
Yes. She also had, there's a website called MySpace. I don't know if you're familiar. It's
I don't do that machine.
It's a website where you go and you can write journal entries on there, leave comments for friends, and post pictures up there. She had left a blog explaining what she had done that day, and she said that she was at a friend's house roasting marshmallows and she had spent the night there. That's basically confirmed that what she was doing, and I did have a conversation with her, and I was quite upset, and I told her everything, how messed up it was that she had done that.
That's pretty messed up. Did you tell your mother that? Look at me. Did you tell your mother you were going to spend the night with Jason?
I told my mom I was going to spend the night over at Julie's, and I told my mom that we were going over to Jason's to watch a movie. And
your mother just said the word Julie. I never heard your mother say Jason. Your mother was whispered to you, you went to Julie's.
I did go to Julie's, ma'am. We went over to Jason's, who was not my boyfriend.
Just a second. So from Julie's house, you went to Jason's house? Mm-hmm. Didn't have an attack in between getting from Julie's house to Jason's house, did you?
They're neighbors, no.
Didn't have an attack between Julie's house and Jason's house, did you?
No, ma'am.
And she did call me and checked in, and she called at midnight and let me know that they were just about to finish up a movie and that she would be back at Julie's by 1.
When you spoke to Mr. Banks on the phone 2 days later, did you tell him that you would compensate him for his expenses?
No, ma'am, I did not.
What did you say to him?
I said I needed to see receipts.
So you did discuss expenses?
We discussed expenses.
Fine, and you said I needed to see receipts.
Before I would even consider a discussion.
I don't believe you.
Seriously.
I don't believe you. Yep, I believe that you said to him, I will pay those expenses, but I have to see receipts.
I have emails here where he's saying that I agreed to pay $270 for prom, tight. Diana said, quote, Diana said she's going to pay me $270 for prom, hit me up. And then to Kayla, who responded, I say $300 even, what's an extra $30?
Listen, what I said to you was you had a discussion with Mr. Banks, and you are under no legal obligation. I don't believe you are under a legal obligation, but for the fact that you agreed to pay him.
I didn't agree to pay him.
Your Honor.
Just a second. In order to have a contract, Mr. Banks, let me explain something. It gets to be a little bit tricky. There has to be, in order to have a valid contract, there has to be some consideration. That means that each person is giving something. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
What would be the consideration, in your judgment, for Ms. Helser to make an agreement to pay you any part of your prom expenses?
I think she felt morally obligated. She still stated to me that Diana had just gotten a job. I didn't know Diana had a job. She said Diana had just gotten a job and that she'd make Diana pay me back my money as long as I had receipts. And I have receipts here right now.
Just a second. So she said she would make Diana pay you back?
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe you.
18-year-old John Banks Jr. says 16-year-old Diana Helser stood him up for his prom. Diana and her mother Lori are countersuing for the cost of summer school classes and defamation of character.
Go ahead.
I was on the other line. He had three-wayed Miss Helser. While I was on the phone, she did say that Diana would pay for the expenses out of her own paychecks because she had just gotten a job.
That's not true. What I said was I would consider based on seeing the receipts. And whether or not you were on the line.
Miss Helser?
Yes.
I'm going to flip over for a moment to your counterclaim, which I'm prepared to hear in 30 seconds or less. He's got a claim for maybe $500. He's got receipts that totally says maybe $500. You have a $4,000 counterclaim because, yes, according to you, your daughter was harassed, defamed, etc. She flunked all of her finals, because of what he did. So you want to get there, please? Diana?
Yes, ma'am.
start with the ad.
I had been on MySpace and I saw a ad that Kayla had posted about paying people to kick my...
Read it directly.
Justice Adams, you don't have to read it to me.
Okay.
What does that have to do with him if Kayla wrote something?
John had confronted some girls at school about...
Don't tell me any hearsay. I don't want to hear any hearsay.
See it.
He had been talking to Kayla on the conversation that I have in front of me about 2 girls that are going to beat my... and that basically I would look better if my was kicked.
What else?
Okay. In this email, he's saying that she'll look even worse after getting beat. The girl that's going to beat her is Jason's ex-girlfriend, who's because her and Diana used to be friends, and she thinks that's f***ed up, that she's with her ex. Oh, well, whatever the reason is, she wants to beat her. It'll work. Hit me back.
What does that have to do with him?
This is his word saying that
I don't care.
he's
What does
got
that have
2
to do with
girls.
him? According to that email, Jason, the new boyfriend, had an ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend of Jason is going to beat her up.
He's got 2 girls at school ready to beat my daughters.
No, no, no. Listen to me. What you just read to me was that the girl is Jason's ex-girlfriend who is angry with her. He may not discourage it. He may even like it. But that's what you just read to me.
I disagree.
Well, I don't care what you agree with, Miss Helsa. I would listen to you if you took responsibility for your daughter's bad behavior and said to me, listen, this was a teenage thing. I feel responsible for my daughter's bad behavior. Blew him off, and he was a very nice young man. And he
I didn't know
I'm
that.
speaking. I'm speaking. Well, he was a very nice young man. He called you 2 days later. He called you most respectfully. Otherwise, you would have hung up on him. He called you most respectfully and said to you, this is what your daughter did, and it was not the right thing to do. So he was most respectful. And if you came into court, or didn't even have to come to court, if you said to him, look, I think what my daughter did was reprehensible, and I'm going to do the best I can to cover your expenses, and I'll make my daughter pay me back for whatever your costs were, because what she did was immature. She's only 16. But also unkind. And I don't raise my child to be unkind, an unkind human being, then I would have respect for you instead of making excuses.
I'm not making excuses.
You did make excuses, because I didn't hear you say to me at any time, he's a nice young man, he tried to do the right thing. My daughter did the wrong thing. My daughter was not hospitalized. She did not seek doctor's counsel that day or the next day. She went out with her girlfriend, Julie, and her new boyfriend, Jason, and they hung out together until after midnight, and it was not the right thing to do when he was supposed to pick her up at 4 o'clock, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not, I'm speaking, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not in an emergency room.
We did not have any idea when he would arrive to pick her up.
Madam, you are operating somewhere in La La Land. Your daughter knew he was going to pick her up at 4 o'clock.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, you did. Because you spoke to her and you were supposed to double date. So don't give me baloney. Let me see the receipts, please. Did you flunk your classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave school?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what happens when you do the wrong thing. You didn't give the flowers to anybody else, did you?
No, Your Honor.
You're even, my dear, going to pay for your own flowers, because I think that your mother made an agreement with him to do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $415. That's all. Thank you.
David Boudreau says ex-girlfriend Valerie Kassler owes for rent and for stealing money from a shared bank account. Valerie says she was entitled to that money.
Mr. Boudreau, you and Miss Kassler were involved in a relationship, according to what I read in your complaint, for a period of time, and did in fact live together.
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe she moved in with you,
Yes.
and you have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children?
I have a total of 4, and I have 2 that live with me.
So you moved in with Mr. Boudreau with your 2 children?
Actually, we got the place together. He was living at the time with his parents.
Did you sign a lease together?
I was the main person on the lease.
Then the answer is only you signed the lease.
All our information was on there. For
Who signed the lease? Raise your hand.
Both of us did.
Great. As joint tenants?
Yes.
Now, it is your complaint, Mr. Boudreau, that after the two of you separated, Ms. Kessler went to a joint bank account and she withdrew some money. That's $1,600.
Yes.
And she had not put that money into the account. That was your money, because
Correct.
this was sometime after you had separated that she closed the account. Ms. Kessler has a variety of reasons why she believes she was entitled to that money, and she's going to explain that to me. When did you move into this apartment together?
November 22nd of 2003.
And when did you move out of the apartment?
May 14th, 2005.
So you lived together for some period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And your arrangement was, according to what I read, that each of you would put in $800 a month to cover your household expenses.
Correct.
Correct.
When was the last time you put money in that account, Ms. Kessler?
April 3rd.
April of 2005.
2005. I apologize.
At that time, you were still living there, so that $800 covered May rent.
Actually, that was for April's rent and bills.
Is that right?
Yes.
What was the rent?
$1,100.
And your gas, electric, cable,
Correct.
whatever. So I would assume that at the end of each month, there wasn't much left over from this $800 a month. That $800 a month just pretty much covered the bills
Some
for
months,
each month.
yes.
Okay, good. Now, when did you withdraw this money, Ms. Kessler, from the account?
When I took it all out, it was in June.
Now, Ms. Kessler, you knew that in June of 2005, it had been 2 months since you put any money into the account. And if there was money in the account, it was money that Mr. Boudreau had put in the account. Is that right?
Correct.
So now the ball is in your court, madam, to explain to me why you believe you're entitled to that money.
There were various months, which I have all written out here, that I put in over the $800 to cover the bills. And some months I put in extra to cover the rent because Mr. Boudreau was not working. And Mr. Boudreau also stated that when we moved with him to North Carolina, that if we were not happy, he would pay to move us back to North Carolina. I ended up having to pay to move myself back here. My son was a witness to a lot of these conversations. That's why he is here. But I ended up putting over $2,270 extra in that account to cover bills.
How much extra did Mr. Boudreau put in the account some months?
None.
What you're saying to me, twofold. What you're saying to me is twofold. That the reason you took that money out, stop playing with your papers, Mr. Boudreau.
Oh.
The reason you took that money out of the account is twofold. A, because you thought you put in more than your fair share during the course of the year and a half that you were living together. That's one. And two, if I don't buy that argument, you had to spend money to move you and your family back home, despite the fact that Mr. Boudreau had said that if things didn't work out, he would pay for your moving.
Yes.
Is there any other reason that you want to offer me why you closed that account and took out
Because
the
I
money?
wanted my name off of that account.
Okay. Is that the primary reason why you went to the bank?
I sent them a letter to close the account.
You have a copy of that letter?
Yes, I do.
Let me see the copy of the letter, please.
Right here. And then here's a copy of the email with the bank.
All right. So the first thing that you did was
I sent
when
him
you
an email.
separated. Shh.
Whoops.
Okay. At least initially, I get the sense, Ms. Kessler, that what you intended was just to have your name taken off the account. And if that meant that the account had to be closed and reopened in his individual name, that's what you wanted.
Yes.
And then you ask the question, well, what happens to the funds that are in the bank? Because the bank says, it can't just take your name off, the account has to be closed. And you say, well, then I want the account closed. And they say, well, okay, we'll send you the paperwork and you close the account, because you can do that. And then they say, well, what do you want to do with the funds in the account? And you say, well, how are those funds going to be dispersed? And they say they send you a check, because you're the one closing the account, and you put it in your bank. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I tried contacting him, and he would not answer the phone. Or
What did you try contacting him for,
just
Ms.
to
Kessler?
get my name off of there. And
All
then
right,
he
so-
sent me threatening emails, and I said, because I was going to let the money, extra money that I put into the account go, just to sever contact with him. He sent me a threatening email, and I said,
Did
"That's
he?
it."
Can I see it?
How
See
many
what
do you
happens
want?
when you're not nice, Mr. Boudreau?
I do.
You see what happens when you're nasty? You could have eliminated this whole thing if you weren't nasty. What'd you get nasty for?
Because those emails I sent, most of them were replies back to her she sent to me. I mean, she called me and 475 times in a little bit over a month.
You have the records
And
of that?
I have the records of that
I see
right
what
here.
you call him 475 times for.
When I first went down there, he had worked on my computer, and I was having computer problems. And
475 times?
And if you notice, some of those calls were made to the cell phone first, and because he did not answer the cell phone, I called the house phone.
475 times?
Well, I have emails here that say, why won't you answer the phone?
Miss Kessler. 475
that's what it
times?
says.
That's harassing. All right, think about when he says nasty things to you.
I mean, before that, he had threatened my life.
This is disgusting, sir. I don't care what she said to you. I don't care if she called you 475 times. This is disgusting.
And I have a lot more with those words in him. He would say that to me in front of my children.
How long did he say that in front of your children before you moved out?
That's why I got out of there.
But he said it, listen to me, the first time, not the second time. The first time he used this language in front of my children.
Too long.
In front of my children.
Too
You're a
long.
tough girl. I mean, I read what you did.
Too long.
I read what you did. You're a pretty tough girl.
I should have got out longer than I did.
Absolutely right. One time, use this kind of language in front of my children, and I'd be gone. If you let him abuse your children that way, that's your problem. They're not his children. You know why you're here, Mr. Boudreau?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're here because you have a big, fresh mouth. A big, fresh, nasty mouth. I mean, I never saw somebody string these expletives together in sentences like this. Don't you have any other way of expressing yourself, sir? Don't you have any other way of, in a civilized manner, expressing yourself?
I tried every way.
No.
I tried every way.
You
and
think that saying it this, Mr. Boudreau, you think that using this kind of language is going to get her to stop calling you? You think that this kind of language in a letter is supposed to inspire her to do things in a reasonable way?
I mean, 475 phone calls.
What did she want
emails,
from you?
messages.
Mr. Boudreau, what did she want from you, sir?
No, I have no idea.
What did you want
I
from him?
have no idea.
Shh, Miss Kessler.
Right now, my kids want their dog.
No, shh. Forget the dog. Just go, forget it. Go buy him a new dog.
I didn't want
I'm
anything
asking
from
you,
him. I wanted him to leave me alone.
So what were you calling? Shh. Listen to me. What were you calling him for? Don't think. What were you calling him for?
At first, to get my computer straightened out, because he's the one that formatted it. And there were programs on there that I didn't understand how they worked, and he knew how they worked, and I was trying to get him to help me with them.
At first? After you didn't return your calls because he didn't want to talk to you. At first, then there has to be a second. What was the second reason that you called him?
Stupidity.
Right. And then you took his money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all.
Body's X.
21-year-old Dora Spicer and her mother, Brenda Waters, are suing the father of Dora's children, Leonard Kiwi, for a loan to get his car fixed, the return of belongings, and pain and suffering.
Who's Miss Waters? Miss Spicer, this is your former boyfriend, and you have 2 children with him. Is that right?
Yes.
How long have you been together?
We were together a little over 5 years.
How old are you now?
21.
And how old are you?
24.
So you were 19, you were a baby. You were...
I was 16 when we got together.
And how old are your children?
3 and 16 months.
According to your complaint, things in the relationship went south. You had gone to bartend at a party. Mr. Kiwi came to the party. He didn't like the way you were dressed. He thought you were being flirtatious. You even went so far as to wear makeup. There was an altercation, and you left.
Yes.
Him.
Yes.
Took the children, and you went to your mother's?
Yes.
According to your complaint, he refuses to return your personal property.
Yes.
That's what the case is about. And that personal property, you're talking about your clothing?
Yes.
And your children's clothing?
Yes.
What else?
My daughter's TV and DVD player that my mom bought her for Christmas.
Your daughter, who's 3 years old, got a TV and a DVD player?
Yes.
Get over it. Now, Mr. Kiwi, let's deal with this one thing at a time, sir. Do you have her clothing?
No, I allowed her to come over on an agreement. On December 23rd, they agreed to me that I wouldn't call the police on them, that they could come over and.
What happened to her clothing?
She came and got it with her mother and stepfather.
What
and
about
all
the
of her
children's
stuff.
clothing?
She took some of it, but basically almost all of it, and left me with like a couple pairs of clothes that don't even fit them.
Did you go there with your mother?
Yes, I didn't get all of my clothes. I still had some clothes there, and I didn't take all the kids' clothes. There's still clothes in totes in the garage that fit the girls.
Well, just a second. He's their father. Who bought the clothes?
He did. My mom did. His mom did. His sister did.
Well, Lisa, you can't take all the clothing.
I don't want all the clothes.
You took some.
Yes.
Good. So, and some he has.
Yes.
Now, your clothing.
Yes, I have a few pairs of jeans over there, some more shirts over there.
You're talking about nonsense. We're talking about little stuff. What are you suing him for? I mean, I don't get it. You were together 5 years. We're not talking about a couple of pairs of jeans, madam.
No, but they're mine. I should be able to get them.
Well, do you have her jeans?
I found one pair of jeans that was in the dirty clothes, and that's the only reason she didn't
So pack
take
it up
them.
and get it over to her.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to your mother. I can't stand to deal with nonsense. You say that you loaned him $1,000 to fix his truck.
Yes.
When?
It was September 12th.
What year? Did she give you $1,000 to fix your truck?
No, she found a gentleman who at a bar who works on vehicles, and at first I was going to sell my Explorer to him, parted it out.
Did
but then
she
he
pay
said he could-
$1,000 to have your truck fixed?
Yes, but
Okay. Now, it is your defense to that
yes.
that you had loaned her $3,000 a year before.
Well, I took out a loan for $3,000 because I was $1,000 behind on rent, so I paid $1,000 on rent, and I gave her $2,000 so their house would not be foreclosed on because they've took out like 4 mortgages on their home.
When did you give her the $2,000?
Before the Explorer was fixed.
Do you have any proof of that?
The only thing that I would have had was be like from my bank that say I paid off the loan, but unfortunately I didn't bring that because it's not paid off yet.
Okay. Tell me how it came about that you gave her the $2,000. Tell me about it. You know, I'm a good judge of what's true
Dora
and what's
was
not.
crying and stuff, and I felt sorry for him because I thought we were family then, but I can see, I guess we're not. And I was just being nice and helping him out.
No, tell me how it came about. Did she come to you and tell you she needed the money?
No, she spoke to Dora, and Dora was telling me about it.
Look at me. When was it that your mother fell? Look at me. I didn't finish the question yet. When did your mother fall behind in her mortgage payments?
It was back in 2005, and he did loan her $2,000, but it wasn't from a loan. It was with his 2005 income tax.
I don't care what it was from.
2006.
Your mother said it was 2006.
It was 2006.
So, how much money did you receive from him?
$2,000, and it was paid back in monthly payments of $500 a month, starting with the month of April and ended in the month of August.
Show me.
I gave it to Dora, and they paid their rent with it.
She gave me cash.
This was never brought up about the $2,000. This was prior. We'd borrowed the money from him, and I've only got 1 mortgage on my house. I don't have 4 mortgages.
Whatever, you have 4 mortgages, you have 1 mortgage. He loaned you $2,000. When?
It was in March.
March of what year?
2006.
And what month did she fix the truck? September of '06.
Yes.
And how much did you pay him back, according to you?
I paid him $500 a month for 4 months, starting in the month of April. It was originally agreed that we were going to start paying in May, the $500, but they were low on money at the time and stuff, so I started paying the money back in April. I paid him back $500 in April, $500 in May, $500 in June, and $500 in July.
Did she pay you back any of the money?
Not all of it.
How much did she pay you back?
I'm not sure. She'd give the money to Dora, like she'd say, and then Dora would say that she was paying us, but I didn't see any of the money.
In what month did your mother give you the first payment of $500?
Around the 3rd of April because we didn't have our rent money.
And when did she give you the second payment?
Towards the end of May because we spent it on my daughter's 3rd birthday party.
End of May. And when did she give you the third payment?
Sometime in June, I don't know when. And the last payment, I guess sometime in July. I don't remember the exact date, but she paid us back. And that's why she made the agreement to fix the Explorer for us because we were down on money then.
Tell me how it came about that you paid this $1,000 for him.
My daughter had called me. Scott also has a Ford Escort. It had...
Just tell me, your daughter called you and what?
Their Ford Escort was broke down. Scott did not have transportation to go to work. She was upset because she didn't want him to lose his job because the Escort was broke down. I loaned him some money to help for parts on that, and then I said that I would pay for the Explorer to be fixed so that they would have 2 cars that were running, because at that time Dora was trying to find a job so she could make income also. So I loaned him the money. I have a gentleman that I work where I work.
Listen to me. You have no contract with him, your daughter.
He
you
was-
know, just because they're no longer together, which is what's happened, just because they're no longer together doesn't mean that you come to court and you claim things that really aren't so. Sounds to me as if he wasn't totally a bad guy. A little controlling, perhaps. You know you're a little controlling, Mr. Kiwi.
Yeah.
But doesn't sound like he's a bad guy. He thought you were all family. He gave you $2,000 from his tax returns when you needed it. He didn't even ask to see the return of the money. You say you gave it to your daughter. She did whatever she wanted to do with it. She paid bills, she paid the rent, she did everything. She never showed it to him. And he was the only one working, right? So he was making a family. Just because they're no longer together and things aren't good anymore doesn't mean that you come to court over a pair of jeans that was in the laundry and fixing the truck so that your daughter would have a car and the boyfriend would have a car.
She
Get
never
over
got
it.
the
Now,
car.
do me a favor. Do me a favor. I have other things to do today. You have a counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, your counterclaim says that you don't see your children.
Yes.
That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
That's for a different court, sir.
Okay.
Are you in another court about seeing your children?
Yes.
Do you see your children now?
Every now and then, but it's a very big hassle because they will not take my children to the designated spot because it is not in writing. So since it's not in writing, they make me go to their house and they know I cannot go over there because they have an ex parte. And when I go over there to see my kids, they call the police. Her mother comes out and stepfather and tries to kick my butt. So I got ex partes against them as well, her mother and stepfather.
What arrangement? Uncross your arms. What arrangements have you made for Mr. Kiwi to see his children? Don't look over there.
We have called
over here.
him, and my sister calls him at work because I can't speak to him. Calls him at work, tells him to meet my dad up the road at a store called Clyde's. He always makes an excuse. He doesn't have gas. He can't get to where it is. So my dad drives to Steve's, a gas station that's closer to him, and drops off the girls.
When was the last time you saw the children?
2 weeks ago. He's supposed to get them this weekend.
And before the last visitation, when was the last time you saw the children?
2 weekends before that.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to deal with the courts about that, Mr. Kiwi. You understand that?
Yes.
I suggest that you get whatever you need in writing, get it in writing. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. This case is going to be resolved this way. I want you to go into the laundry, and I want you to get a pair of jeans that she left there, put it in an envelope.